In this video, we are going to start with the three domains of life under the diversity of living organism. So the concept of three domain of life presents an evolutionary model of classification, and it is basically based on 2 points: the difference in sequence of nucleotides in the cell's ribosomal RNAs or RRNAs, cells ribosomal RNAs or RRNAs, and lipid structure of cell membrane and its sensitivity to antibiotics. Lipid structures of cell membrane and its sensitivity to antibiotics. So it is accepted that three distinct domains of organization evolved in nature from common archaeal prokaryotic ancestors. These archaeal prokaryotic ancestors are still unknown to some. These domains included domain Archaea or Archaebacteria, domain Bacteria or Eubacteria, and the domain Eukarya or Eukaryota. So let us look to a flowchart of evolution of the three domains of life. From an unknown ancestor evolved three domains of life. These are the domain Archaea, the most primitive ones, domain Eubacteria, which includes bacteria, and the domain Eukaryota or Eukarya. So domain Archaea consists of methanogen, halophiles, thermoacidophiles, and domain Eubacteria consists of green non-sulfur bacteria which gave rise to cyanobacteria, and we have the mycoplasmas, which are the smallest known organisms living on earth, and we have the gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. And under domain Eukaryota or Eukarya, we have protistas, animalia, animals, plants, and fungi. So this was all about the evolution of three domains of life. Next, we come to our first domain, that is domain Archaea or domain Archaebacteria. So these domain Archaea are the most primitive forms. These are the most primitive forms of known living organisms. The cell membrane is composed of branched hydrocarbon chains attached to glycerol. And the cell membrane has no peptidoglycan, as we can find peptidoglycans in the cell membranes of bacteria, that is the organism under domain Eubacteria. They are not influenced by any antibiotics that destroy bacteria, that is antibiotics which can destroy bacteria cannot destroy the organisms under domain Archaea or Archaebacteria. Their RNA is unique and much different from bacterial RNA, that is bacterial RNA bacterial rRNA, that is the ribosomal RNA, is very much different from the ribosomal RNA of Archaebacteria or Archaea, and they live in extreme environment. So Archaea or Archaebacteria are found in extreme environment. So their ability to survive under extreme conditions can be concluded from the second point, that is the cell membrane is composed of branched hydrocarbon chains attached to glycerol. These branched hydrocarbon chains which are attached to glycerol helps them to live in extreme environment. The examples of Archaea or Archaebacteria are methanogens, halophiles, and hyperthermophiles. Next, we come to domain Bacteria or Eubacteria. The cell membrane is composed of unbranched fatty acids attached to glycerol. These unbranched fatty acids which are attached to glycerol does not permit bacteria to survive in extreme condition, and also makes them vulnerable to antibiotic. That is, from first point we can conclude directly to the third point, that is the bacteria are sensitive to antibiotics. If we see in the case of Archaea or Archaebacteria, we can see here the cell membrane is composed of branched hydrocarbon chains attached to glycerol, the second point, and they are not influenced by any antibiotic that destroy bacteria. So these branched hydrocarbon chains helps them to be resistant to known antibiotics that influence bacteria, whereas the unbranched fatty acid chains attached to glycerol makes bacteria sensitive to antibiotics. The next point, a naked DNA molecule lies in the cell cytoplasm. That is, we can conclude from this point that these are prokaryotic organisms, and the nuclear Nuclear substance is not distinguished from the cytoplasmic substance by any membrane, as we can see in eukaryotic organism. Then the bacterial RNA is unique and distinctly different from RNA of Archaea and Eukarya. So as we have seen in the previous one, Archaea or Archaebacteria, that is their ribosomal RNA is much different from the bacterial ribosomal RNA. So we can see here the same point, that is bacterial rRNA is unique and distinctly different from rRNA of Archaea and Eukarya. The last point is that the ribosomes of bacteria, that is the bacterial ribosomes, are 70S type. This 70S type ribosome consists of 50S plus 20S subtypes. And some examples of bacteria are Mycoplasma, Cyanobacteria or blue-green algae, gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Next we come to domain Eukarya or Eukaryota, that is the organisms having eukaryotic cell organization. That is the first point. Cells have eukaryotic organization, that is their nuclear substance is distinguished from the cytoplasmic substance by the nuclear envelope or the nuclear membrane. And their cell membrane is composed of trilaminar protein lipid protein layer as in bacteria. So their cell membrane is composed of three layers. First of protein, outer, that is the outer and inner layer is of protein, and the middle layer is lipid. The cell wall is absent in plants but present, the cell wall is absent in animal but present in plant cells, and peptidoglycans are absent, unlike the organisms of domain Eubacteria, that is unlike bacterial cell wall, peptidoglycans are absent in the cells of domain Eukarya or Eukaryota. They are resistant to traditional antibiotics. So the cells of Eukarya are resistant to antibiotics, traditional antibiotics. The hereditary material is formed of nucleoprotein fibers composed of DNA plus histone, where these histones are some basic proteins. And the Eukarya ribosomes are 80S type, consisting of 50S plus 30S subtypes. Now next we come to the four kingdoms in which Eukarya is divided. So Eukarya is basically divided into four kingdoms. These are the kingdom Protista, Mycota, kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. The kingdom Protista includes slime molds, euglenoids, algae and protozoans. Kingdom Mycota includes phycomycetes, zygomycetes, ascomycetes, basidiomycetes and deuteromycetes. Basically these are the fungi. And kingdom Plantae includes bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperm and angiosperms, that is all known plant species. And kingdom Animalia includes all animals.